Hello everyone. It's episode 50. We've done 50 videos.
Yay.
Yay. If I knew how to do it, I'd splice in some sort of happy birthday music or some cheers and clapping and stuff. But I don't know how to do any.
There you go.
There we go. So
There's some clapping.
that's what we have. So I thought I'd do a little chat with the missus again for episode 50 because it's always a little bit more fun just hearing her side of things as well. So I thought I'd start off just by talking about, because I often reflect on coming out of prison, and this time I chose a different path. I basically chose to cut out anybody who had anything to do with crime in my life. So I basically stopped hanging around with the friends I was hanging around with. I cut out any friends who just partied every weekend and did drugs. So I gave myself the smallest amount of temptation possible, because I know I'm weak in all aspects of life. I know that especially when temptation is put in front of me, or if I'm in scenarios where temptation is put in front of me, then I often succumb to that temptation and find myself going down the wrong path. So for me, total abstinence was the way I found doing it. So basically we cut out everybody from our lives who had anything to do with crime, and then I went about searching for a job and just changed my circle of friends altogether, didn't I?
Yeah, you had to.
We just had to. And a few of my friends from prison have done that as well. A couple of my good friends are now sort of settled down with families, and they're working legitimately with very little to do with crime at all in their lives, if anything at all. And but that made me think that a couple of other associates and friends of mine haven't been so lucky. And I thought I'd talk about Merv in particular. You met Merv, didn't you?
I did.
He came down to our flat one day.
He was a proper cockney, wasn't he?
He was a proper cockney.
Yeah, I liked him.
He was a good bloke. Again, filled with flaws, but at his core, he was a good guy. I did a couple of sentences with him, and he was what I would call part of my sort of inner circle of friends. As in, I was very close with that guy, and unfortunately, crime and drugs kept him away from ever going straight. And I remember, kind of the last I heard of him, we invited him to our wedding, didn't we? And he didn't turn up.
No, he promised us everything. I'll be there, I'll do this, I'll do that, and he never even showed up.
He didn't turn up. Yeah, he just completely lied, because he said that he'd had his missus getting her hair done and everything.
Yeah, she booked into a salon and everything. He booked into a hotel and everything down here.
Yeah, and then just didn't turn up. It was just all rubbish. It was just either something dramatic happened and he couldn't tell me about it because he didn't even reply to a message. He just disappeared off the face of the earth, and never heard from him again. And then next thing I saw was that he'd got 11 years. He'd basically been given an 11-year sentence for helping supply heroin from Liverpool down to the southwest. Him and this girl were caught, and they were part of a bigger drug sting.
Absolute numpty.
Yeah, and even that time he just came down to our flat because he basically wanted to get me and another mate together, and he said he was going to be down in the area and he wanted us to all meet up. So yeah, we gave him our address, and he kind of came down, and this other lad turned up, and we'd all done time together, so we were kind of all pally. But it was essentially just a drug steal.
That's all it was. Yeah. Thinking about it, they just came to our flat just
so they could. It was in the middle.
Yeah, cheeky bastards.
And that's
dragging us into their fucking bullshit.
Well, it was they just basically they were thinking of where they could meet up halfway that would be safe. And
yeah, but could you imagine if the police was following one of them?
No, I know.
The police was had Merv on his radar.
Yeah.
On their radar, and they decided, oh no, let's go down to their flat. And then fucking drag us into it, drag you back into it, because
exactly.
You'd be back on your life. You'd be back in life.
I just
remembered
life
in prison.
Indeed, I just remembered just being upset with them, because without telling me,
took a piss.
They did. They turned up at the place with, just to come and say hello, but then also to to sort out their deal. I just remember because it was coke, wasn't it? They were and they were all snorting coke in the flat. And I didn't want any because I was sort of, like I say, trying to go clean at that point. And Merv was one of the ones, like I say, I cut out almost everyone apart from my inner circle. And he fucked us over there. And then, like I say, he didn't turn up to the wedding, so it was a one-way street, kind of, that relationship a little bit. And then, like I say, I spotted him in one of the local newspapers, and he got himself 11 years. And that was about 5 years ago now, so he must be coming up to his halfway point soon.
What a waste.
I know, and he hasn't done any different then. So all that time I was in and out of prison, he was in and out as well.
He hasn't learned anything from it.
He hasn't learned anything, and he's back. He's back. He hasn't come out of that cycle yet, and God knows what he'll come out to. Obviously, once you start keep doing those long 5-6 years in prison, all you know is prison. And all you know is...
He'll be back in before you know it.
Probably.
Within 2 years, he'll be back in doing something.
I don't think he's come out of that circle like I was. You go back to prison and you try and come out. You try and come out to not get caught. You don't come out to not commit crime.
If anything, him being in prison all this time has probably made him connections. He's probably sorted stuff out.
Exactly.
If not
you've already got the
sorted
plan.
stuff out now in prison.
You've already got the plan ready for when you get out.
Exactly.
Now, someone else I wanted to talk about was one of my good friends, Terry. He was, again, I did a couple of sentences with him. He was an enforcer from Plymouth and also like a taxman. He was one of the people that a lot of people didn't get on with, but I never had an issue with him. And it was funny, really, because it was because the gym staff used to call me dangerous, because I got caught making firearms in prison one day. I nearly got charged with making replica firearms. And if you want to know what that's about, you need to go back and check out the Diary of an Armed Robber podcast from the beginning. And so the gym staff started calling me dangerous. And I remember he just came over to me one day, bearing in mind Terry's, like I say, 6'8" and 20 stone. He's a big old lad. He looks like a fucking farmhand, just like a big farmer boy. He's got big shovel hands and everything. And he just came over to me. I was on the weights bench one day, and he was just like, "Here, Bonnie, why do they call you dangerous?" And I kind of just looked him in the eye and was like, "Well, mate, why else would they call me dangerous?" And he kind of just chuckled away and laughed at me and put one of his big hands on my shoulder. And from sort of then on, we kind of got on, and we were good mates. And I remember when I ended up in a bail hostel, one of the times I got out after I was there for a couple of weeks, he turned up at the bail hostel as well. And he quickly went back to kind of criminal ways and making money sort of through drugs and things. And he found himself back in prison. They came in, because he was such a big bloke, they came and arrested him while he was sleeping. They put the handcuffs on him while he was in bed and then woke him up. But he was such a weapon in himself that he just used to turn up at places, turn up at drug dealers' houses and just sort of take the door off, and people would, he wouldn't need a shotgun or anything. They would just hand over all their stuff because he was so big, and he was such a, like I say, such a weapon just himself that. But I used to wrestle with him in the cell in prison because he just used to come in through the door. He'd have to duck down to come in through the door, and he just kind of had that look in his eye that he was, looking mischievous. And as soon as I recognised it, I'd be taking my watch off just so that we could get ready to have a play fight. And he'd be looking at me like, what are you taking your watch off for, boy? And I'd just be kind of looking at him and say, well, what are you coming in myself for, boy? And we'd end up like, because I was quite strong and fit, so I could keep up with him for a bit, but then just after a while, his sheer size and strength, he'd just end up pinning me down, and he'd get me in some weird position where my arm would be bent up behind my back. And he'd just be fucking tormenting me like a little brother. And he'd take great merriment, like for 15 minutes or so, just sitting on my back or something. Like I could barely breathe or move. And my arm would be dead. At the end of it, my arm would be so dead, like I couldn't move it back round again. It would have to get he was a good boy, and I looked him up because he was one of the reasons. Do you remember when we first met and you asked me if I was on Facebook? And I said no, and I was like, my people would fucking take the piss if they thought I was on Facebook.
Yeah.
But he was one of the reasons. He was one of the guys because they were really old school, and again, like you didn't put your head above water or anything like that. And it was better to be a criminal the way I was doing things, to be in like the shadows and in the background.
Yeah, fair enough.
So
can't do shit now about it being on Facebook.
Exactly, yeah. So for me to be a criminal doing what I was doing and to be on Facebook would have been a joke. So that kind of just stuck with me when I came out, even though I wasn't committing crime. I just thought that, basically logging in and telling the world what you was doing was completely against my ethics. But obviously you got me on Facebook and convinced me It's what normal people do.
Who's not on Facebook these days?
Exactly.
That was like, what, 12 years ago?
Yeah, exactly. So it was. They didn't even have Cornwall on Facebook then. You had to say you lived in Plymouth. Do you remember?
Yeah. Yeah.
I remember our local MP actually doing a campaign to get Cornwall on Facebook. Just see how ridiculous it is now. There isn't even a cafe. You can't even open a shop in town with it not being on Facebook now. But it's back then it was different. But anyway, yeah, Terry, I looked him up, and eventually I did find him one day on Facebook because he wasn't on there for years. But the only pictures on him there, he looked a bit weird, and apparently he'd been in a car crash, and it kind of made him a bit different. And then I think he had some blood clots in the brain or something, or I can't remember exactly what it was.
Did he have a heart attack?
I can't remember what it was. It was something like that, and he died. No, that was it. I think he came off a bike, and that obviously changed him. But then he had something like a heart attack or something.
I'm
After
sure it was a heart attack.
But again, it was. It's just this. Life is short and precious, and between Merv throwing his life away, and Terry kind of living his life in prison and then dying when he gets out, it just makes you think.
Such a waste of life. What's the point?
Exactly, and I've talked before about how I've thrown my 20s away. A lot of people. You live life. That's when you're doing the in-betweeners shit. You're going to Magaluf when you're 18 to 30s, or you're just getting your first car and all that kind of stuff. And I spent it in prison. I spent it learning how to fucking talk to yardies and having to fucking shower with 20 blokes at a time. And
that's not right.
Yeah.
That's not right. It's like this.
Exactly, and getting bullied out of your shower. So in the Portland prison,
what? You got bullied out of your shower?
I got bullied out of everything in
what
Portland.
The fuck? How did you get bullied out of a shower?
I was weak, but yeah.
No, talk me through it. How did you get bullied out of a shower?
Okay, so in Portland, in the gym showers in Portland, there was more people than there was showers. So there was a small shower block, and I'll try and find a picture. We're at 12 minutes here. I'll try and find a picture and put it on now so you can hear what I'm talking about. There was a small shower room with maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, maybe 15 showers heads on the wall. And then you'd have a ceiling little unit with some more shower heads coming out there that were piss weak. So you had maybe another 6 shower heads there. So at best, 21 people were getting showered at a time when you'd have maybe 60 in the session.
Right.
So each shower generally has 2 people. You'd have one getting wet and washing while the other one waits behind him, and then you kind of switch round. So you have you rub the soap into you while the other bloke gets wet and then puts the soap on him, and then you switch round again. One washes and the other one kind of So it's how and then you've got members of staff watching and shouting at you to fucking be quicker as well. And then you'll probably have a fight over there. So if there's a fight in the other corner, you've still got soap in your eyes. Everyone's got to leave the showers. I managed to get a shower head, and I'm washing, and this big bloke who was like twice my size just come and tap me on the shoulder and told me to move. And then his mate came in behind him, so I was just stood in the middle with soap running into my eyes.
Oh my God.
No shower. And everyone just laughing at me, basically. But thanks for bringing that up.
Everyone's laughing. Were they?
Well, you kind of when people, it's called getting buoyed off, or you're getting treated like a Jerry, where you're just the runt.
A Jerry.
A Jerry, basically, yeah. So I was a Jerry, and I was now had to wait in the back of the queue again. I had a shower, and
I can't imagine that ever happening to you.
Not anymore, no. But when I was small and 19, it happened.
Hell. Bullied out of a shower. I've heard it all now.
So when most people are getting their first cars and freshers week and all of this, I was having to defend myself just to get clean.
Well, I've said it before. Don't do the fucking crime.
No, I know.
That's why you shouldn't be doing it.
Exactly. But so that's that's another thing I'll be going to therapy about. But
I've not heard that story before.
I know. I try and keep it repressed, really.
I've not heard that before.
So. And that's, again, like I say, one of the things you don't normally have to deal with.
I'm going to bully you out of a shower later.
Thanks, mate.
Get out, bitch. Start whipping you.
Me and the cats
Throw
need
a
to
cat at
whip.
you. Get out.
Yeah, can you imagine that? Throwing a cat at you. And that's something we haven't talked about really. Pets in prison. We used to. There was one guy on the wing. He had a budgie, and you used to be able to. If you was doing life in prison, you'd have a budgie, and you got a little fucking. We're just like a fucking granny's bird cage, really, with a couple of bits of fish fucking thing in there. Cuttlefish. And some trill. You'd have a little budgie. And again, because, people in there doing life, a lot of people tend to relate to animals, don't they? Rather than
definitely.
Humans. And it can just take the edge off if you've got something to focus your attention on.
Well, let's be honest, an animal doesn't talk back, does it? You can talk to an animal and pour your heart out to it, and it just looks at you and you go, oh yeah, thanks for that.
It's almost like a reflection of what you want, isn't it?
Yeah, you put your emotions onto it and it replies to how you want it to reply in your head.
Yeah.
Whereas a person will be like, shut up, you prick, stop fucking moaning.
Yeah, you're
not going to get the answer you want.
You're always worried about also, saying something that's going to, you can tell a fucking budgie anything and it's not going to, well, hopefully it won't say it back.
Could you
little
imagine
cunt,
if it did?
They get the little cunt up in the dock. He did it. He told me. But do you remember we watched something, or I've read something? I've got a brilliant memory. I love stories that start off like this. But it was about an American jail, and they had cats in the jail.
Oh yeah.
And it really calmed the inmates. And I remember the journalist saying, isn't there ever any incidents of the cats being harmed? And they said that the only time a cat got harmed, the prisoners basically killed the guy, I think.
Rightly so.
Yeah. So that was the only time a cat had got harmed, and the prisoners basically took him and killed him. So it never happened again. But yeah, I could imagine that. I could imagine that on certain wings. If you had like an enhanced wing or something like that, I could imagine dogs and stuff.
It'd be lovely. I'd be a massive advocate for that because it gives people purpose.
Yeah.
It gives people something to live for. And responsibility and everything. Absolutely, and
they'd be all queuing up to take him out for a walk.
Fucking right, honestly, it would be. I genuinely, if they brought that out, I think you'd see a marked decrease in violent and like antisocial behaviour and stuff. No. It would be such a good thing for them.
Yeah, I don't think you could have it on the main wings.
No, but like you said, on the enhanced stuff, like the good boys and stuff, and like the women and that.
Yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Now we've just been watching to kind of get in the mood to kind of do this podcast. We've just watched a couple of prison documentaries on YouTube, haven't we?
Fucking hell. Yeah.
What was that first one? It was Wandsworth.
It
looked like a zoo.
It was fucking horrible. I don't know how you cope with it.
Yeah, it was. I enjoyed it to an extent, just because once.
Who the fuck enjoys prison?
Once I got out of Portland, and when I say enjoyed it, I'm talking very liberally. But I found being in prison easier than being out of it. Once outside of prison was very difficult for me to deal with, whereas in prison 90%.
How is outside prison worse? It's a piece of piss. You've literally in prison. Every single day you've got to basically go right. Is today the day I'm going to get my ass kicked? Am I going to need to fucking defend myself? You've always got to be looking over your shoulder.
No, I know.
Outside, you can walk down Tesco's. You can go down the street, you can go post it, you can do what the fuck you want. And no one's going to say shit to you.
No, I get that. And so, in prison, like you say, you're always worried about stuff. So as soon as you learn to fight, you've only really got one, you've got one problem in life. Are people going to come and kick your head in today? And if you can fight well, and you're big and strong, then the answer is no. So you've basically just solved all of your problems by just learning how to fight. So once I knew how to fight and defend myself, I'd solved 90% of the problems in my life. And the other 10%.
That's why you can't cope with life outside.
Exactly. So
because how you deal with stuff is to kick off.
Exactly, and that doesn't help you with any problem.
No, and you've never changed.
No, well,
you're getting better, but you've never changed. You kick off all the fucking time. I don't think you've done it this week.
I haven't kicked off this week, but I barely left the house.
Yeah, so. You haven't kicked off this week. You're doing right. You're doing well.
Yeah, I've managed to. Yeah. The lockdown has really limited my...
You've not been anywhere for food either, so that's helped.
It really has.
You're always kicking off about food.
That's one of my triggers.
It is your biggest trigger.
Indeed. But, so yeah, like you say, when you come out of prison, life throws a lot of challenges at you. So You immediately have bills to pay. You can't just spend your money on what you want like you can in prison. You basically, your money's your own in prison. As long as you put enough money on the phone, get your stamps and some chocolate bars, you're sound. But as soon as you get out of prison, everybody's got their hand in your pocket.
But that's living like a fucking child.
Exactly, but that's how I'd spent my life for years. So I either had excess money, so I didn't have to worry about bills and problems like that, or I had nothing, and then suddenly I was a massive problem because I'd be like, fuck, I need money. So I'd be kicking people's doors in.
But you see how childish that is, though?
No, I know.
You're literally like, oh, well, I've got my pocket money, I've got my little cell, I can do what I want.
And that's
And then when you get outside, it's just because you're not getting a wage, that's the only difference. In a way, apart from like, when you're in prison, you're getting your pocket money and everything, you've got a roof over your head and everything, you can deal with it.
Indeed.
When you're coming out of prison, you said that everyone's got their hand in your pocket.
Well, that's it, because you don't have to deal with that normally.
If you're out of prison, you should be getting a wage and everything.
But you're not, and people still want your money. So, like when you sign on, and you're in a bail hostel, when you first come out of prison, you're in a bail hostel. You get your discharge grant, to get you through the first days, and then you start getting. You can't claim housing benefit when you're in a bail hostel, for some reason, but they'll still charge you rent.
Really?
Yeah. So they'll charge you something like £20-30 a week rent back when this was, and if you start working, then it goes up to like £90 a week rent. So you have to pay that out of your wages and still try and save up to get out. And obviously. And like I say, it is childish because you haven't had to deal with this. Between 2000 and 2008, I didn't have many bills at all. Like I came out of prison sometimes with thousands of pounds in my pocket. So there was never that.
You'd have had no bills, would you?
There was very little pressure. I'd go and stay in a bed sit, or I went into mum's, so there was no rent to pay, that sort of thing. And you had pay-as-you-go phones. I had very little pressure. Sometimes bills would build up, and then I'd just move on. And I'd move out and I'd move somewhere else. You know what I mean? So I didn't cope with life like an adult for a long time. And it was only after I'd been with you for about 6 months or so that we started putting things on direct debit. Just because, again, I'd always just paid everything with cash.
Oh, it's so much easier, isn't it?
And it was just, it's a chaotic way of life. But that's how I dealt with things. And because I always pushed any kind of authority away, like probation, and anybody who did try and help me, I just saw them as the enemy, and like I just basically told them to F off. I can deal with things myself. I never accepted anybody's help, so I was dealing with things like a child, and I accept that. When I was 17, I committed the armed robbery. I just turned 18, and then December I was in prison. So I was 2 or 3 months into being 18, and then I didn't have to live my life as an adult until I was 28.
Yeah.
So I had fuck all education about how to be an adult, and then suddenly I was thrown into it with you. And then you had to pick up the pieces.
Yeah.
Still am. I was going to say you have been ever since.
But you think you've basically you've been brought up in prison.
Yeah, exactly.
And you can't change the way you've been brought up. So your default mode is always going to go back to being like aggressive and kicking off.
Yeah, that was I did my university in prison and further education in prison. I stayed on for my fucking postgraduate.
But yeah, and it's hard to break you out of those cycles of.
I'm trying my best to now.
Do you know what I mean? The cycles of just like how you deal with stuff.
Yeah. I'm trying my best to and I feel that when I'm stressed and under pressure, I sometimes because I enjoy confrontation, because that was always a benefit to me. So confrontation was the way I always won. So I got that kind of that fucked up reward system of winning whenever I was confrontational. So sometimes I enjoy that, putting it on people, and sometimes doing stuff I shouldn't. I'm trying not to. So you said you had a question for me. Do you remember what it is?
Yeah, when we was watching that prison thing earlier, obviously the prison guards all get shit from the prisoners and stuff.
Yeah.
Who doesn't? Which staff don't get any shit? So obviously, like the nuns and shit, and the chaplains and stuff.
Yeah, good point.
I wouldn't imagine they would get much, like, grief.
Yeah.
What about the teachers and stuff? I don't know what...
The teachers get loads.
Oh, do they?
Yeah, because they're not even really prison staff. So they will be civvies, civilian staff coming in. They'll have keys, but they're not like... Yeah, they won't ever twist anybody up or anything like that. But they sometimes get loads because they're just good people coming in trying to make a difference. And some people don't want to be... Like I've said before, you know, that... Do you remember in sort of your class, out of a class of 30 or 35 or 40 now, there will always be one or two people who don't really want to be there. They're always being kicked out of class, that sort of thing. Those one or two people are 100% of the people in prison almost. So,
oh, yeah, I can imagine that.
So when you're sat down in an education class in prison, you know, there's people kicking off, they don't want to be there, they're standing up, they're walking out, they want to look out the window, you know, like it's like herding cats. And that, you know, that little person in prison has gone in there with the best intentions of like, you know, I'm going to make a difference. You know, they've watched a couple of films of like, you know, that what's that one? That Gangster's Paradise one, Michelle Pfeiffer. Oh, fuck me, I don't know. 26 minutes, I'll have to bring it up. I'll find it. I can't think what it's called now. But she teaches like inner city kids. But yeah, you get someone like that going in prison. They, you know, they want to turn some lives around, and they end up just trying to fucking just make it through the day.
So what is the difference then? Why do they get shit? What about why don't the nuns and all get shit?
Because the nuns don't try and force anything on them. The nuns aren't trying to do anything. A teacher's trying to sit there and... Like, these people revert back to being in school. So they just, you know, fucking act up as soon as they...
It's just the religious people then?
Well, no, because they don't... The religious people don't ask anything of them. Some wing staff will get shit just because they're weak. And then other members of staff will instantly be respected just because of the way they carry themselves, the way they talk to people, you know... So say, for example, if you need something. So if I came and just said, look, you know, I really need a phone call, or can you deal with this application for something or other? And it gets done. Like if I came back, if I put the application in at 8:30 and then the member of staff kicked open my door and was like, oh, I've taken care of that for you, don't worry, it's all been sorted. Instantly you'd be like, thank you very much. And you wouldn't be giving them shit. You know, you'd be,
Would that get passed around the other people, the inmates then?
Well, no, because they tend not to just do it for you. They'd be doing it for a lot of people. So they treat
everyone the same.
Exactly. So similar to like teachers at school, some teachers got grief and other teachers were just respected for some reason. Like, and you can't always work out why. It's normally just that kind of way they carry themselves and the way they deal with things. So yeah, some members of staff you wouldn't have a problem with at all, and you'd never hear them getting any grief. And then obviously other members, you know, you see them getting terrorised when they walk up and down the landing and shit, and they're just never respected. The gym staff, a lot of the gym staff, they're all screws. So you know they all get a little bit of shit. But because it's the gym and you want to go to the gym, it's kind of a voluntary experience. No one forces you to go to the gym, so the gym staff normally get a little bit more respect as well.
Right.
Yeah. Other than that, sorry, there isn't really like a hierarchy of staff that you'd ever go at. But it's just that if the staff go out of their way to be dickheads, then they normally get they normally get terrorised, or if they're just not respected. You know, if they look weak, that sort of thing. We've watched those documentaries before where those staff go into prison. You can tell them a
mile off, can't you? It's just like, you are going to get absolutely terrorised for these people.
Because they're just like, you know, they've read the handbook from like the 50s, and it's just like, you know, chat to the prisoner in the morning and, you know, try and build a rapport.
Well, do you remember what programme we watched? That within the first week of that bloke being there, he'd already had one of the inmates call us saying, you've been telling people I'm a nonce, I'm going to fucking kill you. He looked terrified.
Exactly.
Didn't he?
And once you see other members of staff see him like that, or once people on the wing see him like that, and it's just, it's just not going to be a good time out. And then, like I say, they just, when people are telling them, when that member of the staff's trying to get them to bang up or, you know, anything like that, they're just not going to get respected.
You ain't going to listen to him. I won't listen to him, to be honest. He looked like a right little pussy.
Exactly. Exactly.
You know,
and it's dangerous because he's the member of staff.
Why would he be going into prison? Why would he be doing that as a job?
Because these people think they're going to go in there and try and make a difference. But also you've got to think you've got economy pressures as well. So you've got people who may have been sacked from their job working at Debenhams and they're now looking for work, and the prison service is advertising.
I wonder what the money's like.
It's slightly better than normal wages.
Is it? I wouldn't want to do it, not for the shit that you have to put up with.
You'd probably get the same money working at Aldi.
I'd rather work at Aldi.
probably got the same amount of risk of getting stabbed.
It's all right up there. You thought our one was a cattle market till you went the other day.
It is.
It's
Trying to social distance and people jumping in front of me.
A little old lady.
They're the worst.
They really
You got
are.
any other questions for me? It was quite emotional watching that visit, wasn't it? On the.
It was really fucking sad. It was horrible. It did make me cry.
Yeah.
And I just think, I don't ever want you to go back to that life. Like, honestly, I don't know how you put up with it for so long. And to hear you say that you enjoyed it, that was a bit of a shock for me to go, well, why the fuck would you want to enjoy prison?
Elements of it, yeah. Yeah, well, you know...
I can imagine being around your mates and that would be a bit of a laugh. But those constant years of bullshit, having to look over your shoulder, having the constant fucking noise, and constantly having to... assert your authority with people.
Yeah.
Because it's like, I couldn't be arsed with it. I really couldn't.
Didn't you say it was a bit of a wake-up call as well, seeing the...
Oh, God, yeah, that lad. He got fucking done for having a taser.
Yeah.
We've got a fucking taser.
You've got probably the exact same taser that he had.
He got 20 months.
Yeah.
But he was... I reckon he was taking it around the pub.
He could have been taking it out with his mates and things. He could have got into a... You know, he could have been aggressive with it, you know. But...
I took it to fucking work.
Yeah.
I took it to work. I was stupid. Yeah, well, it's run out now, so it's just a torch.
It's a self-defense torch you can buy online that turns into a taser. And...
Yeah, that was a hell of a wake-up call, because that was like, fuck, that could have been us.
But it's just self-defense, isn't it? Like, we bought it for self-defense at home because it cracks like a whip. But it's, yeah, it is, in theory, highly illegal.
We got done for having a firearm, didn't he?
He got done for having a firearm, got 20 months. But he got
out
out
on 10.
Got out after 6.
Oh, 6, wasn't it?
Yeah, with tag.
6 months.
So you could have me back home in 6 months.
Yeah, but it's all the bull. You would fucking revert back to being in prison like that. You would snap back and it would be like, oh, fuck me, all those years I've been trying to, like, sort you out.
I'd have you flying drones over the wall in no time.
So fuck. No chance.
You would be the last person I'd rely on to fly a drone successfully over the wall.
You get caught in the barbed wire.
Yeah, I'd be like, hold on, lads. She's going to get it going in a minute.
I wouldn't do it. Like, fuck would I do it? No fucking way. Absolutely not.
Not even for a few quid.
No, not for a fucking few quid. How much?
I could get you a knockoff handbag.
No, hang on. I could go up Camden and get a fucking knockoff handbag. Thank you very much. I could do it myself.
Or Camden Market.
Yeah.
That's funny. Well, we've done half an hour.
We've rambled.
For our 50th anniversary video.
Yay.
Happy birthday, everybody.
Woo.
Thank you very much for listening. I know some of you guys obviously like the help and support that these videos give and the insight into prison life. And I hope we haven't bored you too much.
Don't get into crime. It's not worth it. It really isn't.
It
it's
really
bullshit.
isn't. The best way of not having to deal with people in prison is to just not go into prison.
Yeah, just don't do it.
So, yeah, thank you very much for listening. Hopefully there'll be another 50 coming out soon. And we'll celebrate the 100th one. We might do a live one for our 100th video.
Ooh.
Yeah, and we'll work out how to put the cheering bits in there by then.
I could have a little thing on my phone, a little app.
A soundboard.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'd be good.
That'd be good.
We'll invest in that. Anyway, thank you very much, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye.